Hey folks, it's MSP Mountain, and in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can attract better staff to your MSP. This is one of the biggest challenges because the type of talent MSPs need is very rare, and they're some of the brightest people on the job market, and they have lots of options. And so you really have to really try to create a great environment to bring people on board. So basically, let me go into the sort of things that I thought of when making this list. The first one is recruit slowly, because we often get these sorts of requests. It's super urgent. I need a level three technician for US Pacific business hours now. And that's a really bad way to staff, because then you're probably going to take anybody who ticks the boxes on paper without actually verifying that they're a good fit in your company culture. So recruit slowly. And if you have the chance, overstaff if you find an excess of the right people. When you can find them, bring them on board. Yeah, you can do that. And well, you might say, Eric, I can't afford to bring on many people. It's like, well, can you afford to lose clients when your staff gets busy and starts giving bad service? Well, maybe you better think about that, and maybe you better think about like building for the future, a commitment to structure, and a commitment to bringing the right people on to a good environment. So recruit slowly, interview lots of people. Don't be in any hurry to hire anybody until they fit the right sort of characteristics that you need. And the overstaffing part comes in that you should always have at least one or two extra people. Then you actually need to run your MSP at a bare minimum, because people will get sick. People will quit. People will, lots of things can happen to people. Believe me, with my staffing company Support Adventure, we have like 100 people on now, and the list of tickets every day people can't make it to work is long. So always have an extra set of hands around, and that gives you resources to allocate to the structural stuff that I'm going to talk about as well. So don't hire anybody who doesn't fit with your culture, who don't enjoy talking with about life, and don't enjoy like sort of connecting with on a personal level. Just keep that in mind, and that should radiate in your interviews. When you have interviews, it needs to be you selling them as much as they're selling you on the relationship that you guys are going to start together. There's no room in this job market for trying to get candidates to sign up to work with your company with this interrogation style job interview I so often see in the MSP space, where they have to tell you the something about subnets or it's wrong, and the person who's interviewing just has this like, all right, do you know the answer to this? That's correct. Okay, do you know the answer to this? Nope, that's wrong. Nope, you got that wrong. All right, well, we're going to think about this and get back to this. No, it's like you should build a vibe with the person you're interviewing, and it's the most important thing, because that really shows what the rest of the relationship will be like. And are you running your organization where it's just like some person owns the company and then puts a bunch of, or people in the company put a bunch of stress on management to put a bunch of stress on the techs to get things done and make it happen? Or is it actually, are you actually running a place where people enjoy spending time there and working together? And this will radiate immensely in the interviews. So when you're interviewing people, talk about their hobbies, talk about their home lifestyle situations, talk about what you offer, what you guys like to do for fun, the types of jokes you tell around the office, and where you see the company going and what type of people you feel you need to bring on board. Focus on that stuff and be able to describe it, and then you'll see if that stuff just like bounces off of them, or if it sticks. And if it sticks, by putting those values into the job interview and the way that you're talking to them, you'll see that, and it'll just be easy to get that person to want to go, even where one other company might be offering more money, but the job seems like you'll be more stressful, they might take yours, right? So have lots of great people already who are happy in well-defined roles. This is a really important thing, like, because the most successful interviews, it's like, the candidates get to talk to multiple people in the company, and hopefully all those people that they're talking to are going to seem relatively relatively content and happy to be at the station that they're at in the company, and happy to share. You know, this whole culture that you're building will really show when you run them by your service desk manager, you know, the owner of the company, the dispatcher, or something, and they all talk to this person, and they'll see, wow, all these people seem relatively relaxed. They don't seem distracted, stressed out. Maybe this MSP is a great place to work, which is what you want to be, right? I hope so. Otherwise, why would you be watching this video? All right, so have a brand identity and a vision that includes them. So if your brand identity, as a lot of MSPs start out, you know, when I was 16, I started putting signs up in my neighborhood of Toronto, going, "I fix computers," basically. Computer genius for hire was how I put it. And people called me because I fix computers. My whole brand identity was, I am the computer genius, I fix computers. Right. So maybe you're still functioning on this level. It was great marketing because I was 16, it was 99, and people needed that because these computers were in the whole other story. I've got another video about this on Supportive Ventures channel, but yeah, have a vision for what your MSP does. Are you a premium provider who aims to give their client the best service? Or are you an average provider that aims to give average service? Or are you a budget provider that aims to give quick, cheap, and dirty service? And what type of relationships with what type of people working for your MSP do you want to have if this is what you're doing, you know? Because if you want to give your clients the best service, you can't have a bunch of people servicing 3 tickets at once while answering the phone and you know, juggling all this different stuff on a unicycle. It just doesn't really fit. So have a vision that includes them, meaning that you're going to join our help desk and you're going to be in a position where you're going to be able to learn. The door is open for you to advance. We don't want you to be stressed out. We want you to be able to, you know, develop your career here and feel like you have a team that will help you do that and all that sort of stuff. This will be music to any applicant's ears, because you always, when you're in a job interview as an applicant, as much as you want a job, you pick up on a lot of cues of the people that work out there already. And if the cues are like, and the stories are like, hey, here's Jimmy over here, and he started fresh out of college as a dispatcher, and look at him now, he's a level 3 8 years later, and Jimmy never needed another job. And talk to Jimmy, he's happy, and Jimmy's actually happy, super helpful, calm. Wouldn't that be awesome? If one of your core values is to invest in people and develop people, I mean, that's going to be a better place to work for anybody in the MSP space than places who think, I just need a level 1 to solve 15 tickets a day. That's it. That's it. What's your business? What's your brand? It's like, oh, we provide IT support for businesses. It's like, that's it. Okay. All right. Well, this doesn't sound like much fun. It doesn't really sound very like developed from a philosophical standpoint, but there's lots of MSPs that are just like that, because, you know, boss man wants to make lots of money. Same old story. It's like, but unfortunately, boss man doesn't realize that he's going to make a lot more money and have a lot more chaos, a lot less chaos and problems to solve if he actually invests in people and he actually invests in their well-being, monitors their well-being, and sort of helps them feel themselves at home on a team that actually helps them and all of that stuff. Boss man's going to make a lot more money, but boss man, instead of these, let's call them less developed MSPs, just want to run around signing contracts, and what they get off on is sign contracts. And there's ops man who is like just taking on all these contracts and trying to run a ticket crushing machine, which burns out people at an incredible rate. You know, every 6 months you have like the level 1 leaving again because there's another MSP out there that has better working conditions and more money. So which boss man do you want to be? So have a commitment to structure. This is the same thing. This is out of the same thing. I will say the structure is the most important thing that you should be doing in an MSP. You're not a bunch of people sitting around who fix computers. You're a structure through which people can fix computers, through where clients can get their technological issues sorted out in an efficient way, get the right advice, get the systems running, and get business done. You're a system of structures, whether it's your ticketing system, your documentation platform, all of that stuff is a structure, and you should be constantly improving it. And you should be constantly adding roles to make things run more smoothly. You should be constantly adding written procedures and expectations so that people know what to do to keep the system going. And you should constantly be adding insights and analysis onto that whole thing to look at how things are progressing from a numbers standpoint. But then you always want to have a structure for checking in with your staff and making sure that they're feeling good about the job. That's a huge part of structure. And if you constantly evolve your structures in your MSP, then things will go well. And you need to evolve your structures with the feedback of the staff. So have lots of systems, lots of procedures to the point where people know what they're doing all the time, unless it's some weird out of box case and that gets escalated. But people know, like, I'm working on this problem now. I'm required to put these types of notes on it, required to communicate with the client in this way. And then I'm required to, ensure that the documentation, if I changed anything, is kept up to date. So yeah, have a commitment to structure, and the next one is have a structure for commitment. This is what I'm talking about, career advancement. If someone's committed to working in your MSP, don't just make them that level one who's going to stay at level one, crushing tickets on the help desk and, running the numbers and keeping, the fires put out and all that stuff. Have a structure for how that they're going to move up in your organization. Have a structure for how they can have a career where there's like, examples in your company of people who have gotten this certification, who have been promoted to this role, who have gotten this leadership training if they're entering in management, who have gotten this and that, and all of these other things. So a commitment to structure and a structure for commitment. People are committed and the right type of people, because you should be only hiring the right type of people, because you're out of the scarcity mode of having to hire fast. That was the first recommendation. And the next one, have a management team that knows how to lead by example and consistency. So a lot of the time, I hear the word micromanagement thrown around, and I've also heard a really clever sort of saying, which is micromanagement is training. But where I tend to hear micromanagement thrown around by techs in an MSP environment tends to be when people jump out of nowhere, who are usually absent and distant, and they jump out of nowhere and demand that things be done in a certain way, where there's no, it's just like the person's doing their job, but then the manager or owner or whoever jumps in and basically says, no, that you're doing it wrong, you have to do it like this. Well, that doesn't really seem really good. If you let people like do what they want to solve the issues of the client most of the time, and then you jump in and nitpick a bunch of random things. No, you have to actually lead by example and consistency. So if you are owner of an MSP and you want your technicians to keep a timesheet, why don't you keep a timesheet of everything that you're dealing with for the MSP every day and lead by example? And if you want them to have that timesheet be held accountable for it, why don't you have someone to constantly check that everybody does their timesheet? And that there's a clear sort of criteria for what that looks like when it's done well. Yeah, so it's like the worst MSP managers, there's like this distance thing that happens where they care too much about the metrics, or they care too much about the tech, or they care too much about basically anything. The clients, when they complain, and they don't actually look at any ticket unless a client complains. And basically they care about pretty much anything except for the tech's direct experience while working on the help desk. And this is what really needs to be addressed in a lot of MSPs, from the upper management level to the service desk management level to the dispatch level. Each person should monitor the people below them and see how their experience is, and see what experience they can lend to make the experiences better. It's so simple when you just open up the dialogue and have an open door policy where people can say, well, this sort of stressed me out, because there's always like a chance that you can make things better. So lead by example and consistency of doing it. And it's not micromanagement if it's training. So have a really good training program so you can teach people in your MSP how to do things your way and where to get further information when they don't know what to do, rather than being that swooping in micromanaging person who's then out the door until some other client complains about something. That's a bad look to have for your staff. So yeah, it brings me very nicely to the next one. Have clear expectations and a system to hold your staff accountable to it. What are the clear expectations? What do you do? What do you want how much time do you want them to log on the system every day? How do you want them to log that time? Are they rounding up? Are they not rounding up? What do the ticket notes look like? What's the documentation policy? How are they supposed to use the statuses on the ticketing system? All that sort of stuff. Make it clear in writing and then have somebody enforce that system. And when you have a system like this where people are held accountable to something consistently from a open book of rules that sort of like tells them exactly what the deal is, follow this and you'll be a good employee. Well, guess what? The good employees will follow it. And it's really easy to identify the people who aren't making enough effort to fit or will never fit. And, a lot of the time, lots of technicians, they say they're too busy to follow the rules, too busy to fill out the ticket because there's so much going on. Well, that's why you should overstaff. That was tip number one. Always have extra people and give them, so give people time, and have check-ins regularly. This is something a lot of MSPs don't have time for either. Check in with your staff at least once a week. See how they're doing and listen to what stresses them out, because there might be, again, a way to tweak the system to make it so they don't have to suffer the stress of answering a call while they're already working on 2 tickets. So they don't have to suffer the stress of having to escalate to a senior technician while that senior technician is on site via chat because the documentation isn't properly. What stresses them out, and how can you as a manager or MSP owner or somebody else who has influence on this whole thing, how can you make it better? Listen to them and make them comfortable, because like when people start being uncomfortable in their job, you can even have these meetings and they will just go because they just don't see any point in it, because they've lost all faith that the place is ever going to be a good place to work. So you want to get these meetings, you want to get this going right from the start when you're working with people, and just open up the floodgates of all the feelings they have about their job and use that as a cataclysm for calibrating your MSP so that makes the right people that you've slowly hired, and you've got a couple too many of them, it makes them happy. Make their roles breathe and vary. This is really important. Not everybody wants to be that 15 ticket a day ticket crusher on the level 1 help desk. Maybe if you have a couple extra of these people, you could allocate some of their time to some project work that will help them prepare to actually be project leads or something like that. Some certification work that you can do. If everybody's so busy all the time that they're only doing ticket after ticket after ticket for half an hour per ticket, and then they have to escalate if they can't solve it, and they never actually get to solve the hard tickets, doing a bunch of easy tickets, guess what? They burn out. If you tell them they need to log every minute of their day in a ticketing system, guess what? They burn out. But if you let them breathe, if you calibrate by listening to them, which was the previous tip of, basically, what do they like about the job? What are they interested in? What stresses them out? And you calibrate the role and let it breathe a little bit, give them some varied roles. Oh, we do need someone to come in, we'll give you a half day off on Thursday if you come in for a half day on Saturday, log into these servers and install these updates. Would you like that? Find the person who would like that. Audit the documentation for a couple clients, call them up and make sure that their contact info is all up to date. Get the updated list of who actually still works there. Usually that's a dispatch job, but make their roles breathe and vary, and figure out what they like. And so you can design the role to see what their unique skill set as unique human beings is bringing to your organization. And then, even if half the day or 2/3 or 3/4 of the day is still crushing ticket after ticket after ticket on the help desk from users who need help right now, at least they'll have a little bit of time to let it breathe and a little bit of their time to get more organized and help you and get your MSP more organized and less chaotic. This takes us to documentation. Documentation is one of those things that always, when MSPs get busy, they get understaffed, disorganized, chaotic. Well, documentation is always the first thing to fall by the wayside, and that just compounds the problem. It just makes it even worse because now you've got massive holes in your documentations. Everyone's so busy, and they're too busy to update the documentation. Now they're busy and they don't have the documentation they need to do their job, and they have to waste even more time. And no. This is why you should not fall into this trap. So you have to have a culture of documentation and make it a group effort and reward those who contribute or who identify the lacks in the documentation. So if I was running an MSP of my own, I would actually make it so if you can find me a missing piece of documentation, you get a bonus. Maybe it might be $5. Maybe it might be $10. Maybe that might add up to $300 if they're really hawks on the documentation. Hey, this isn't here. And for a valid sort of this IP address is wrong, this password doesn't work anymore, you give them $5 or $10. I don't know. There's just some way to incentivize them. Actually, everybody, let's get this documentation to be really good. Let's get our IT glue to function, like an airplane, because if your MSP was an airplane, you probably wouldn't want to fly on it at this point. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Allow them to improve their skill set and pay for it. So during their business working time, maybe it's you can give them a couple hours a week where they can do training stuff like Microsoft Cloud stuff, Amazon Cloud stuff, whatever it is you're using that will help you go into the future. If this person knows this stuff, give them time, pay for the certification, the education materials, all that stuff. And then you'll have people actually feeling like you're investing in them, feeling like they're a member of the team that's going to be around there for a while, not just some disposable piece of employee that is going to be flushed out whenever they make some mistake. I don't know. Happens a lot in MSPs. A lot of MSPs are chaotic environments, and you can get lots of staff from bad MSPs to join your MSP if you make them feel good. Last one, make senior techs mentors rather than managers. So senior techs, like there comes a time in everyone's career where they either have to go in tech, management, or tech, super tech. Management or super tech. It's very rare to have somebody who can competently grow in a big way while doing both at the same time. Me personally, I took management. I wanted to understand people and the way that they work in the systems of these systems which help people with their computer systems. That was interesting to me. I wanted to make a system with, understanding human psychology, customer service, and all that stuff. That's where I really understood my place in the world. I was technical enough to do like Linux when I was a teenager, set up servers on Linux and all that stuff. When I started making money with Windows, that fell by the wayside. And when I started, doing this remote MSP help desk stuff, I quickly transitioned into hiring people and staffing them on MSP help desks. And now I almost do no tech, and I was good at both, but I chose management. Some people will choose the server closet role, where you're going to be in the server closet deploying infrastructure, managing products. You have to be good with clients, but these people don't necessarily make the best managers. But as a manager managing these techs, you might want to tell them that there is a huge emphasis on them training the junior techs and helping the junior techs accomplish what they have accomplished, and finding the junior techs who can follow in their footsteps. Really important, because lots of senior techs believe that the junior techs are idiots, and sometimes they do things that are idiotic. And maybe these senior techs have been technically brilliant since birth. I was kind of like that, but I chose management. But some people just want to stay in the server closet and deploy thousands of user systems and all that stuff. You gotta make it clear to them that that doesn't mean that they can't have people skills too and be mentors and be people who can help enable the whole team to get stronger, because no senior tech wants to get escalated to all the time. So they need to get their mentoring skills sharp. So there's mentors and there's managers for techs, and you need to identify the people who are going to be both in your organization moving forward, because this is what kind of ties together this whole thing that I'm talking about. Having a great environment, having a wonderful place to work where people will leave an MSP that's chaos and come to your MSP and just be like, thank God I can work with these people. They're nice. It's organized. They listen to me. The clients are nice. They've chosen good clients. And I've got a nice workflow, nice relationship. All right. So what did this bring up for you guys? What are your thoughts? Write them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. This has been MSP Mountain. I'll catch you later.